For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, obviously Sony has really ruined their name with these, Spider-Man villain spin-off movies. There's like what, 5 or gonna be 5 at the end of this year. Actually, there's gonna be 6 by the end of this year. Bloody hell! The first Venom is a movie which I absolutely love. Seriously, like, not just looking at the Sony movies, just Marvel movies in general. I love the first Venom movie. It's just so funny, it balance it out with a somewhat interesting story. It's just fun to watch, really. And I don't know how many times I had that on, because in 2019, I got my first Lego set, and while I was building it, I just kept putting Venom on repeat while I was building it. So, that was really cool, and I loved that Venom film. So, as you can imagine, when the second one was announced and we were getting Carnage, I was so excited. But then Venom 2 ended up being a complete joke and essentially being Thor Love and Thunder of the Venom films. And it was so disappointing because Carnage is such a he's basically the Joker, except worse. Imagine putting the Joker in, like a child's animated film. Like, imagine putting it in like a Despicable Me movie. It won't work. Carnage was much like Gore, just put into an absolute joke of a film. Then there was Morbius, and this became like the biggest meme of 2022 in terms of movies, because poor Jared Leto, man. He just, obviously it is kind of his fault, but I do still kind of feel bad for him. Morbius was a disaster, to say the least. I did not find it as bad as many other people did. I actually had a decent time watching it. I'd actually argue that I would rather go and rewatch Morbius than Venom 2, just because I had such high expectations for Venom 2, and they were just never met. Morbius, while it's not a fun movie, the one thing that I do appreciate about it is that it's a lot darker. It's not, well, I believe what Americans say, rated R, but basically there's not much blood in it, and they have blood sounds, but there's no blood. So this movie was, let's be honest, it was bad, especially the post-credit scene, which I went to go watch it in cinemas with my friend, and we were so excited for the post-credit scene. But like, holy shit, that is so awesome. But then as soon as we stepped out of the cinema, we were like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. That was the worst post-credit scene ever. So then after that, there was Madam Web, which I can't really speak about because I have not watched it, and I don't really plan to watch it for a while. So there's that. Then we are going to be getting Kraven the Hunter in December. And that trailer did just get released, and we now have a look at the Rhino, played by Billy from Jurassic Park 3. So, yeah. These Sony movies, they really are not the best, but they are not just damaging Sony's name. It's damaging the entire Spider-Man franchise. So, as you know, of course, Sony does own Spider-Man, and when Marvel makes a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, of course, they basically make it with Sony. It's essentially like a partner movie. And the only way that Sony will maintain the rights to Spider-Man is if they keep making movies within, a certain amount of years of a character from the Spider-Man history. And that's why they are not making Spider-Man movies. They are just making the villain films. That's why they were going to make a movie of someone called El Muerto or something. He appears in like one comic, and that got cancelled, thank God. So essentially what this is doing is just, it's like a loophole. They found a loophole to keep the Spider-Man rights. And The reason why I say that they are damaging the entire Spider Man brand is because these villains that they have made, this was just revealed today, is that Marvel cannot use a Spider Man villain if Sony has already used them. This is crucial information because now look at all the characters in the Sony Spider-Man movies. Now, Venom, I don't really think, falls under this because we know that Venom is in the MCU. It's not going to be that same Venom, but it will be a Venom. But characters like Morbius, Madam Web, Rhino, Carnage, even though Carnage is dead, but characters like that, they will never be in the MCU, meaning that we will not get Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven the Hunter versus Spider-Man, which, what the hell? Oh my god. Sony has basically made an entire franchise around one character, one character's villains, and those villains aren't even the villains of their own movies. And it doesn't even include the hero that they are the villains of. Look, picking on the Sony Spider-Man villain movies has obviously, it's been, everyone's done it. But now it's just getting to levels of just being insulting and disrespectful because, Madam Web is, while it isn't really a character that I'm interested in, it would be cool to see her in the MCU because I know a little bit about her, and then even like Kraven the Hunter, that would be so cool to see. And Rhino, imagine Tom Holland, fighting this version of the Rhino. It would be so cool. But I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, I would have loved to have seen Morbius in the MCU. I know that he's a joke, that whole movie's a joke, but I would have loved to have seen that. But this entire, villain franchise that Sony's made is just stealing characters from Marvel because now Marvel's, their choices for villains for the future movies for Spider-Man are getting more limited and more limited every time Sony makes a movie. But what the most painful thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean a solo film. Because take the Rhino, for example, right? This Kraven the Hunter comes out in December. That is Kraven's movie. But the Rhino will only be in the movie for maybe a couple scenes. But because Sony is going to use that character, Marvel can't use Rhino as a Spider-Man villain. And that just sucks, especially with the rumors of Spider-Man 4, arising recently, where it sounds like Sony have won and this movie's gonna be a giant multiversal adventure again. God damn, they've really fucked us over here. And I can't see Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies getting anywhere better than No Way Home, because in No Way Home, you had all these villains that everyone loved. And it just seems like now we're just going to have to get generic villains from Marvel, and they are going to be picking at like the bottom of the barrel for Spider-Man villains. Because if you ask anyone, who would you like to be, some villains for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, you'll hear names like Kingpin, like Kraven, obviously. If you want to be special, you get Morbius. But, everyone's going to pick Venom, Kraven, Kingpin. They're going for a multiversal story, which immediately eliminates Kingpin from the equation. Kraven, Sony made that movie. Same with Venom. They are not going to be in it. So, well, actually, the Venom symbiote, you've heard rumors, will be, but who knows? The movie's gone under rewrites, so they could have removed it. Sony has they have completely ruined Spider-Man, even though they're the same company that, Spider-Man in live action only exists because of them, because of Sony. And it sucks to see what they have done to this beloved character, that they are just removing the villains that he can fight. Because, I mean, we've all faced the reality is that we are never going to get a Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Man universe. Venom is not going to get a Spider-Man. Madam Web is not going to get a Spider-Man. And it just sucks because it seems like their focus is only going to be on Tom Holland, which is ironic considering they're just taking his villains away. And so, yeah, I've rambled on way too much, but please just let me know your thoughts on the entire situation. And, you know, if you can't have villains like Kraven, Madam Web, freaking Morbius, Carnage, Venom, whoever, if you can't have those villains for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, what other villains from Spider-Man lore would you like Tom Holland to fight? Everything, let me know in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.